morning, everybody, and welcome to Ask the Expert, an award-winning daily series from 8:30 to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. You can ask any questions in the comments, or you can use the hashtag QBATE on Twitter. If you need any more advice, you can join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook, where accountants like me and business experts are on hand 24/7 to answer your questions. During the live session today, we're going to be running a poll, so please do engage with it and I will reveal the results at the end. So just a little intro about me. I am an author, I'm a speaker, and most importantly, I am an accountant. So I am the founder of Accountancy, and we are a female-led accountancy practice, and I specialise in working with women in business and influencers. So at the moment, only 1 in 3 entrepreneurs are female, but in the last 12 months, women made up 60% of the newly self-employed category. So across the globe, the share of women among small business owners has reached nearly 40%, and that's up from just 4.6% in the 70s. So it is an industry that is growing really, really rapidly, and I am so excited to be seeing more women in business than ever before. So I don't want to take up too much time talking about myself today, so I thought I would cover off some burning questions while we wait for your questions. So just really quickly on Brexit. We are leaving the EU on the 1st of January, and you need to account for import VAT on your VAT returns. So things are going to be a little bit different. You need to comply with the customs regulations, and then on your VAT return, we need to ensure that we are posting things correctly. So before Brexit, you had to pay the import charges to get the goods into the UK, and then claim the import VAT back on your VAT return. So at the moment, you pay the import charges to get the goods into the UK, and then you claim back the import charges on your VAT return. After we leave the EU, you'll have the opportunity to simply declare the charges on your VAT return without having to pay them to get the goods into the country, which is great for small business cash flow. So in terms of the compliance and the VAT return, QuickBooks have been amazing at releasing lots of new updates to help you. And Aaron Patrick, who is That QuickBooks Chat on YouTube, has put together some brilliant content and videos showing you exactly what's what and how to prepare your VAT return with the new changes in terms of compliance and in terms of QuickBooks. So HMRC also do now have an online Brexit checker, which is available for everybody. It's for individuals and business owners, and it covers everything from where you want to go on holiday to where you import your goods from. You can go on, answer a couple of questions about yourself, your business, and where your holiday preferences are, and the online checker will tell you how Brexit will impact you. So if you Google, how will Brexit impact me, UK, the Brexit checker will come up and you can take it from there. So, Boris, what's Boris been up to? When I heard that I was speaking on Thursday morning, I was really excited because we thought Boris was going to be making a very large tier change announcement last night, and I was going to be able to help a lot of people, specifically people based in London, and lots of tier 3 changes. Obviously, Boris's announcement last night was a little bit anticlimactic in terms of really big tier changes, but obviously we have seen London go back into tier 3. In terms of the financial support that's available, the financial support isn't majorly changing depending on what tier you're in. People are being massively encouraged to use flexi furlough wherever possible. So if you're running a hospitality industry and you have to close, please do use flexi furlough wherever you can. And then secondly, SEISS, the Self-Employed Income Support Scheme, is still running, and for this quarter it is coming through at 80% of last year's profit, which is amazing. Something that is coming up and is approaching quite quickly is VAT deferment. So if you remember all the way back to March 2020, if you deferred your VAT between the periods of March and June 2020, it is time to pay or think about paying or make arrangements to pay. So your options at the moment are to pay in full on or before the 31st of March 2021, or you can opt in to the VAT deferral scheme, which will open in 2021. So don't go searching for it yet, it's not live. Early 2021, the opt-in for the VAT deferral scheme will be available, and you can choose to make between 2 and 11 smaller monthly payments to repay your VAT. It's all interest-free. The only requirement is that you have a VAT that you've deferred, you are up to date with your other VAT payments, and that you have opted in before March 21. So it's really important that you opt in by March 21. And that's it, really. I've covered off some firefighting issues, so now I'm going to jump over to your questions. So, okay. So question number 1 has come from Judy on Facebook Messenger. And thank you so much for your message, Judy. Judy has asked, the pandemic has forced businesses to change strategies and accelerated digitization. Do you think accountants need to adapt accordingly? And what are the top 2 to 3 areas that accountants need to work on to keep up with the new businesses and their requirements? Okay, this is a brilliant question and is very, very up my street. So thank you for your question, Judy. Absolutely. I keep saying this, and I seem to be saying it quite a lot at the moment, that I think approaching 2020 and the build up to 2020, I'd say the accounting industry was almost at risk of being eaten by automation. There's some amazing softwares available like QuickBooks and Xero that you can, sorry, I just realized I swore on QuickBooks. There's some amazing softwares like QuickBooks, and which small business owners can use to do everything from bookkeeping to nearly filing their own accounts, and that's incredible. So I'd say we are seeing our clients changing in terms of they're able to do so much themselves that as accountants we are having to step away from simply only supplying annual chargeable services, and we are becoming all-round strategic business advisors. So I'm currently studying a master's degree in business. I'm doing an MBA because we are responding to the fact that actually location is no longer important. It's quality in service that people are really, really looking for. So we've been busier than ever in 2020 because people are searching for not location. They're not searching for an accountant around the corner that they can drop their records off to anymore. They're looking for an accountant that can provide quality and service, and people are looking and taking stock in 2020, and they're looking around and they're seeing, well, my accountant hasn't been in touch, whereas Rachel on Accountancy is going live on Instagram to address the announcement that Boris has just made. And I think that's really important. So being able to adapt to the changes and being able to pivot very quickly has been very, very important. In terms of what are the top 2 to 3 areas that accountants need to work to keep up with the new businesses, I would say, so Accountancy for me is an Instagram platform. I have nearly 5,000 followers on Instagram, and I get a lot of Instagram-based businesses approach me. And it's not just for their accountant. I think it's in many professional services and a lot of walks of life. People really love approaching and working with other people that they can relate to. So as another business owner that does operate a large portion of my business on Instagram and online, I am much better able to relate to those people, associate with those people. I specialize in working a lot with influencers, and I do run an influential accounting platform. So I am able to relate to those people. So I'd say going where your customers are is very important, whether that's Instagram, whether that's somewhere else. Going where your customers are is very important. Being relatable, being up to date with any changes, and just being really proactive. And I think 2020 has been really, really difficult for a lot of people, but we've definitely seen within the small business community that sometimes, at the very least, I can provide all of the COVID support, I can provide all of the strategic management, we can do cash flow planning, but sometimes people just need a friend, and they need a friend that they can talk to about their business, because some business have really excelled in 2020. And if you've hit your first 10K month for the first time, you might not want to be going to your friends who are really struggling or have just been made redundant. So sometimes I am the person that people come to. And I think that actually, more than anything, being a real person has become very important in 2020. So I feel like I said a lot, but I hope that answered your question, Judy. Ranjit messaged on Twitter, and Ranjit said, what are the key challenges faced by women entrepreneurs in the current market, and what is the advice you give them? Thank you for your question, Ranjit. So, Forbes conducted a study in 2019, and they asked a really large cross section of females in the UK, and they asked them what were the barriers to entry and what was holding them back from not becoming a female business owner. And the three answers they gave were imposter syndrome, access to funding or finance, and business knowledge. And actually, that study is where accountancy was born. I felt desperately passionate that I needed to respond to that, and they are all manageable. I can deal with all of them. So accountancy was born with the goal of being able to either provide solutions or support to women in business on those three things. So if I just whistle stop talk my way through them, access to funding or finance, we partner with a lot of high street banks specifically who are committed to the Women in Finance Charter. There's a lot of studies that show that a woman in the same seat as a man with the same business pitch and the same speech would be offered 60% of the funding that would be offered to the man. So we are very passionately partnered with banks who are committed to the Women in Finance Charter and who don't discriminate when they're offering funding or finance. Imposter syndrome. So again, I've just said, I think 2020, an accountant is actually, you need to be a real person. So I work very closely with my clients to talk about imposter syndrome, to work out how to identify those feelings and move forward and acknowledge your achievements in a really positive way. And then the final one is business knowledge. So a lot of women don't feel that they have enough business knowledge and business guidance in order to become a small business owner. So again, I'm doing an MBA. I'm able to coach and guide and support women through their journey in business and be able to. So we also offer 1 free hour one-to-one whenever we take on a new client. So I spend an hour of completely uninterrupted time with the client to run through business plans, cash flow, software training to eliminate any barrier that relates to business knowledge or guidance. So I hope that answered your question, Ranjit. Francesca from Facebook Messenger has asked, what is the additional restrictions grant? Can I apply if I'm receiving payments under the local restrictions grant because I am closed? I'm really sorry, Francesca, but I actually don't know the answer to that question. I'm sure QuickBooks will be able to direct you to the SMB community group who will be able to help you with that question. I'm really sorry. I think these are very local to councils who are specifically in tier 3. I'm currently not in tier 3, thankfully, so I'm really sorry I can't answer your question. The next question has come from Selma, and she messaged from Instagram, and Selma has asked, can home-based businesses with no specific business premises apply for the local restrictions grant? I'm really sorry, Selma, but the answer is no. We are a home-based business, and because our business premises has no rateable value, it's made it very difficult. We are really passionate, and we've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes to try and change that, because so many businesses use their home as an office, and it's actually been a huge barrier to a lot of finance and funding to a lot of people. So I would definitely ask that you connect with me on Instagram and I can give you some updates, but yeah, at the moment that answer is no. I've had a message from Brad via Twitter, and Brad has asked, hi Rachel, are you able to claim the office reduction in the corporation tax liability if you want to register your company at your accountant's office in order to keep your home address private? Yes. So just to explain the background of this question for anyone that doesn't know. Companies House is the public register where limited companies are registered. Because it is a public register, the address that the company is registered to is a public register. So sometimes when you set up a limited company for the first time, some people get like a little bit of spam mail, or for example, as Brad's saying, he doesn't want his home address to be public. So a lot of people, a lot of accountants, we offer it as a service. You can register your company to a different address, and that is just the trading address, and you can work from somewhere different. Alongside that, in accounts, if you do use your home as an office, you can use the flat rate recharge scheme in order to put through a charge for your use of home in order to reimburse yourself personally for the added expense of running your office from your home. They're not interchangeable, so you absolutely can claim you can claim the flat rate use of home allowance if your registered office is not your home. So it's a registered office and it's a registered address and a trading address are two different things. And yes, Brad, the answer is yes. I've had a message from Jonathan on Twitter, and Jonathan has asked, can I hire employees as a sole trader, or do I have to convert into a limited company to do so? Thank you for your question, Jonathan. The answer is yes, you can absolutely hire employees as a sole trader. There's nothing to stop you doing that. You can register as an employer with PAYE, you can set up a payroll scheme, and then if you grow, if you are employing employees as a result of your growth, but you're not quite ready to transition into a limited company yet, you can hire employees as a sole trader on a PAYE scheme. And then if further down the line you transition into a limited company, you can you can transfer your PAYE scheme from your sole trader into your limited company. So if you transition, you don't nothing changes in terms of your employees' perspective, their pay slips, anything like that. So absolutely, yes, you can hire employees as a sole trader, and if anything changes down the line, you can transition your PAYE scheme from a sole trader into a limited company if you needed to. So I've had a message from Leone on Twitter DM, and Leone has messaged saying, with all of the uncertainty over the new tiers and government message, I haven't been seeing anything in terms of grants or supports for businesses. Is there going to be any announcements soon? That's a really good question, Leone. Things do seem to have gone a little bit quiet in terms of new grants and new supports. I would definitely encourage you to approach your local business hub. So the local business hubs have been specifically set up in every single local county, local town, and for some villages as well. Your local business hub is your hub of knowledge, because the tiers and the restrictions and the funding has all been diverted through local councils. Your local business hub is the place to be to find out more. You can register and subscribe for emails. It's not very spammy. They come through once a week, but they will notify you. You can tell them a little bit about yourself. You can tell them how your company's set up, whether you're a director of a limited company or a sole trader. And they will email you when new funding comes out, or if there's some funding that you haven't yet applied for, they will tell you. So your local business hub is definitely the place to be. At the moment, you are right in that we're not seeing new funding come out, but there are existing schemes that new funding is being released into. So I would definitely encourage you to subscribe to your local business hub. I've had a message from Harris on Instagram, and they've asked, good morning, is it a good idea to consider financing options for the initial months of Brexit? I'm anticipating delays in supply as well as payments. It's a really, really good question, Harris. Thank you for your question. Yes, so HMRC have actually partnered with the international scheme, and there are currently some funding options available. I did mention earlier today about the Brexit online checker. If you use the Brexit online checker and there is a box to say you are anticipating some cash flow problems, there is a grant and there is some money that you can apply for in order to just give you that cash flow buffer, which it sounds like you need. Yes, so if you are anticipating delays in supply as well as payments, that's some cash flow issues, I would really, really encourage you to apply for that funding. So I've had a message from Khalid on Twitter DM. Hi Rachel, you spoke about imposter syndrome on previous shows. How does one know that he or she may be suffering from it? And once identified, what are the steps to overcome it? So that's a really, really great question, Khalid. So imposter syndrome by definition is, so if I just ask you a question, have you ever felt like you don't belong, or that you don't deserve to be in the position that you're in? Or like, I'm sat here thinking, why am I on Ask the Expert? Why are people tuning in to listen to me and ask me questions? That's imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is the feeling that you've only got to the position that you are in by luck, not by hard work or merit. And it affects everybody. It affects men and women. And I speak specifically about how it affects business owners because it is a huge part of business. Like I said, I'm on Ask the Expert, speaking live and getting asked questions. And imposter syndrome is that voice that says, no one's listening to you. Like, where are these questions coming from? Yeah, so it's not something that's like specifically diagnosed, but you would know that you're suffering from it if you feel that way. Like if you feel that someone is going to expose you as a fraud, like if you sit in business meetings thinking like, oh, please don't ask me a question because I'm not going to know the answer, that's imposter syndrome. So once you've identified it, I really think it helps. And I also think being around people that talk about it is also really important. So I was recently on a podcast and we started talking about imposter syndrome, and every single person around the table admitted that they felt that way. And I think normalizing it, speaking about it really, really helps to make you feel like you're not going insane and that everybody feels that way. And it's just about normalizing it and feeling confident. So in terms of overcoming it, normalizing it is really, really good, and talking about it with peers, loved ones, people in a business environment, I think that's great. Another way to overcome it is to really sort of step back and look at the facts. Like, I'm an accountant, I'm a business owner, I am qualified to be an Ask the Expert. So just like looking at fact and not letting your mind run away with you is also really important, and practicing things like mindfulness is also really important as well. Okay, so I've had a question from Crystal on Instagram, and they have asked, I recently got a job as an employee. How do I add my P60 to my self-assessment? So that's a great question, Crystal. So just to expand a little bit on Crystal's question, if you prepare a self-assessment because you are self-employed and you also have employment income, your employment income is taxed income. So by the time the income comes to you, it is taxed. And your self-employment income is not taxed by the time it gets to you. You get the total turnover and then you have to deduct tax. So there's two sections on the self-assessment tax return. There's a section for taxed income and there is also a section for untaxed income. So on your P60, it has the gross pay in the year, the tax paid in the year, and the net pay during that year. So you just need to transpose and populate those figures from your P60 onto the tax income section of your self-assessment tax return. And then your untaxed income, so the income that you've got through being a sole trader and through self-employment, you need to populate those figures into the untaxed income section on your self-assessment. It's really important that you do that because from your employment income, you will be utilising your employment allowance for the year, and it's really, really important that HMRC know that so they can calculate the tax due at the year end correctly and accurately. So I've had a question from Ramiz from Twitter, and they have asked, I started an online business in June 2020, 2 months after the tax year began. What do I need to submit? When do I need to submit my tax return, as it was not a full year? So Ramiz, great question. That's a question that I am seeing a lot of at the moment. So if you started trading in June 2020 and you are a sole trader, the sole trader tax year runs from the 6th of April to the 5th of April every year. So specifically for you, Ramiz, your tax year is the 6th of April 2020 to the 5th of April 2021. So that's the tax year that you are covering. So your first tax return will cover the 6th of April 2020 to the 5th of April 2021. The tax return and the payment for that period will be due on the 31st of January 2022, which seems like ages away, but I would really, really encourage you to prepare and submit your tax return as soon as you can after the year end. The payment isn't due until the 31st of January, so there's a lot of benefits to filing your return early. It gives you time to pay. You don't have to pay until the 31st of January, but it's really important to know that the filing deadline and the payment deadline is the same day, the 31st of January 2022. Stepping back just from specifically Ramiz, but this is applicable to everybody under self-assessment, tax year runs from, I'm just going to say it again, the 6th of April to the 5th of April every year, and then the filing deadline is the 31st of January following that. So it seems like a very, very long time. A lot of people leave it till the last minute, which is why if you see an accountant at Christmas, they probably don't look too happy. There are huge, huge benefits in terms of cash flow and tax planning to filing and submitting your tax return really quickly. So I would really encourage you to do that. I've had a question from Amelie, I hope I pronounced that right, on Facebook Messenger, and she's asked, "Hi Rachel, can you share some tips to better negotiate with suppliers? I feel that being a woman, I have compromised with it in the past." So again, that's a really, really great question. I think, again, a part of that probably is a little bit of imposter syndrome, that you don't feel able to or strong enough to, or that you feel like the people working at the suppliers know more than you. I would really encourage you to, and this is something that I work with a lot with, especially self-employed people, is really identify and know the area of the business that you are speaking about. So if you are negotiating with a supplier over cost, you need to really, really understand all of the different elements involved in that cost and what it means to you as a business. If you know that, you won't budge. So part of the work that I do with a lot of my clients is really understanding your hourly rate. So we work through start to finish what their personal requirements are, how much income they would need to turn over to meet those personal requirements, taking into account annual leave, holiday, some days sick. And we really, really work out exactly what the hourly rate should be, because that is a specific area that people really like waver on, and they feel really compromised with it, like you say, Amelie. So really understanding the area that you're in, understanding what you're talking about, and if you know all of those things, you won't waver, because you'll be firm on, like, this is not right for my business if, like, I hope that made sense. Okay, so whilst I've been chatting away, we have been running a poll on all of the social media platforms, and we asked you guys, is your business prepared for Brexit? 25% of you said yes, and 75% of you said no. Okay, so 75% of you that said no, that's a lot. We actually leave the EU on the 1st of January 2021, so I would really, really encourage you to get prepared for Brexit. I've said it before, HMRC have a fantastic resource online that it just asks you like 6 or 7 questions about your business, how your business is running, and it will identify for you what parts of your life will change after Brexit, and you need to be prepared. So please, 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 the 75% of you that said no, I really would encourage you to just take half an hour today to spend some time having a look at that and to respond. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, then please do either get in touch with the QuickBooks support team or myself on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram by searching for accountant_she. I am accountant she. Coming up on Ask the Expert tomorrow, which is the final Ask the Expert before Christmas, we've got Tom Exton, who co-founded LDNM. So that's an internationally known and widely respected brand. So he works full-time in the city as an investment banker. He runs multiple businesses and has a successful YouTube channel and a podcast. So a super quick reminder again that if you do need any more advice, you can join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook, where accountants like me and business experts are on hand 24/7. I have really, really enjoyed answering your questions this morning. Again, this is the last time I will see you before Christmas, but I am back in the new year. So have an amazing Christmas and a wonderful new year, and I will see you in the new year.